Hello, 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 and welcome to the 12th episode of Mixed Media Reviews Season 4. My name is Kelsey, and today I'm going to be talking about a movie. This week's movie is actually three movies. I couldn't decide, so let's talk about three movies that are currently on Netflix. Damsel, which is a Netflix original, and then Love Again and Anyone But You. Both were, I think, released in the theaters earlier last year, I want to say, or earlier, and then came out on Netflix because that's how that works, I guess. I don't know why I'm explaining it to you. Anyway, that's right. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah, it's time for another wild and crazy episode, I guess, where I don't really follow my usual formula, and I get sidetracked really easily, I guess. These are going to be quick reviews about each movie where I'm just going to briefly give a summary, talk about anything I liked or disliked, and whether or not it's worth the watch. Which, yes, as I say that out loud, that basically is my formula, but it's three movies, and it's squished together. So, there you have it. First up, let's talk about Damsel. Damsel is about a young woman, played by Millie Bobby Brown, who agrees to marry a handsome prince, only to discover it was all a trap. She is thrown into a cave with a fire-breathing dragon and must rely solely on her wits and will to survive. So, did I like this movie? Maybe, I think. Millie Bobby Brown's character, Elodie, is painted as a more rugged princess. She and her sister live in a smaller village where her father is a lord, but they're a bit more chill, I guess. Their village is struggling, and they're all kind of doing what they can to help their people, including Elodie out chopping wood, which is where we first meet her. This then gives Elodie an edge that previous princesses, also cast down into this massive crevasse at the top of a mountain to their doom, did not possess. She's crafty and she's capable. I kind of like, that it's different, I guess, in that way, but it's also, I feel like that's every fantasy ever, is that this girl is, not like the others, and she knows how to get her hands dirty, and she's, feisty, and she can, do whatever she wants in her super long and sharp nails, including chopping wood. So I guess that has that going for it, or not. I don't know. I feel like in one instance, I like that she is, feisty, and that she can fight back, and that she's able to kind of, step out of what her role should be as, I guess, a princess or whatever, a lady. I don't know what she would be if her father's a lord. But if she's able to kind of step outside of that role, that's nice, and she's, willing to do what she can to protect her people, that is a good quality. But I feel like, on the other hand, it's more of the sameness that we always see. So I guess I just kind of feel neutral about it. It's not, I don't know. Let's move on. The acting is all right. Elodie's stepmother is played by Angela Bassett, and of course she is absolutely wonderful. As is Shohreh Aghdashloo, I think is how you say her name. Shohreh Aghdashloo. I'm probably messing it up, even though I listened to many videos of her saying it, other people saying it. But she is phenomenal. She voices the dragon, and she has a voice where she is just made to play a dragon. So she is perfect for this role. She is a perfect dragon, and now I think she should continue playing dragons, because she's great at it. Robin Wright plays Queen Isabel. That is Elodie's betrothed's mother, the queen, and she was also terrific in this role. And there's other people who I think also do a fine job. I will say that the acting on Millie Bobby Brown's part wasn't the best. She is great in Stranger Things. I love her as Eleven, but I think she's still maybe finding her footing outside of that role. As Eleven, she has to play it very straight-faced. She doesn't have a wide range of emotions in that role, and I feel like maybe she's still kind of learning how to emote a bit more, how to kind of pull herself out of this role that she's, really been in for a lot of her growing up. So I think there's just something that feels off still, and I'm hoping she eventually will find her feet. And, not saying that she was absolutely horrific. It just, I feel like it doesn't always reach her eyes, if that makes sense. And it's still a bit less subdued than I think that this role would have typically had. And the last thing I'll probably mention is, this is probably a bit spoilery now, but I did like that we get this twist at the end. I won't mention the exact twist, but saying a twist is happening is still a spoiler in my opinion. But that twist at the end, I really did like. It was what I was hoping for in regards to the dragon, and I'm glad that they went that route instead of, a different route. And yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was good. And the ending, made me feel like, well, okay, this was pretty good. So if you're looking for a romantic fantasy that kind of throws some of the tropes on its head, and you don't mind a bit of suspension of belief in certain aspects of the film, then I think this is probably a watch for you. Next up, let's talk about Love Again. Love Again is a more traditional romantic comedy, perhaps with a splash of Hallmark element to it, or maybe Lifetime, depending on how you read the male love interest, but we will get to that. So the summary for Love Again is the following. Coping with the loss of her fiancé, Mira Ray, played by Priyanka Chopra, sends a series of romantic texts to his old cell phone number, not realize it was reassigned to journalist Rob Burns. Rob becomes captivated by the honesty of her words and the beautifully constructed texts. When he's assigned to a profile of superstar Celine Dion, he enlists her help to figure out how to meet Mira in person and win her heart. Again, did I like this movie? Well, yes and no. Well, yes, it does seem like perhaps it could be a cute premise. Priyanka is terrific, and there's even a cameo by Nick Jonas that is pretty hilarious. Russell Tovey is also in this. I think that's how you say his name. I don't actually know. But he was in The British Being Human, which I absolutely loved, where he played the werewolf and was in an episode of Doctor Who as well. So he was great. That was great. Rob, the main love interest, is played by, I feel like today's episode is just everybody's last name and first name even. Like, I don't know how to pronounce any of these names. Sam Hugan, maybe? Not, I don't know. Him. And yes, he was great. I think he does well with what he is given, with the script he is given. And so I think everyone's acting was good in this movie. It wasn't the acting that threw me off. But there were definitely some oddities that did throw me off that I do want to throw out there. It's a lot of throwing, but just stay with me. First up, Mira, of course, has to have a quirk because she's not like other girls, which is, of course, asking would you rather questions to people, which people think is just so crazy that she does these would you rather questions. Like, it's the most insane thing you could ever do, when I'm pretty sure it's like something that plenty of people do and it's not uncommon. But anyway, so she asks him when they're on like their first date if he would rather have a parrot on his shoulder for 22 hours or 10 cats, and somehow they both choose the parrot. That's insane. That's literally insane. They think having the cat is the insane one, though, which is double insane. You'd rather have a parrot on your shoulder for the majority of a day than 10 little idiots that will just kind of do whatever the heck they want? How would you even shower or sleep? Do you only have like a 2-hour window to change your clothes? Because if it's on your shoulder, like, can it move? Is it on your skin of your shoulder or the clothes of your shoulder? I guess it would probably be able to move a little bit, but like changing with a parrot on your shoulder cannot be comfortable. And then, are the 22 hours consecutive? Or can you break up the 2 hours throughout the day so like you can use, a quarter of that to shower, a quarter of that to go to the bathroom so you don't have a parrot yelling at you? I don't know. Like, how does it work? I have so many questions about it, but in the end, they're just both psychopaths who'd rather have a freaking parrot on their shoulder for 22 hours a day than 10 cats, which I guess is fitting and leads me to my next point. Rob is a creep. He is such a freaking creep. This is going to be spoilery. I mean, I guess. Yeah, well, okay. It's going to be spoilery. But he reads her texts when she sends them and doesn't say anything, which is fine. I get everything is a scam these days. I 100% always ignore any text and phone call that I get unless I recognize the number. And his friends even point this out, that it could be a scam, so ignoring them, probably the safest bet. But then she mentions like going somewhere in a dress, like in this certain yellow dress, and he just decides to show up there and like look for her. What? He then continues to try to date her without telling her, and it's just like super, super creepy. If he came clean the first time and was like, hey, look, I've been getting these texts and I didn't know if it was real, but thought I'd come here just in case. And then I'd tell you, hey, just so you know, you're not sending these to a phone that doesn't exist anymore. I'm getting these texts. A little weird, but I mean, to not say anything about it, to continue to lie to her and try to date her because you've like fallen in love with some random person that's just texting, while she thinks she's texting her dead fiance, that's wild. And I mean, he does kind of get called out, but not really in the end, just kind of by his friends. Also, this film kind of seemed like they were trying to go on like a PR tour for Celine Dion. She was in it way more than I thought she was going to be, which, I mean, my bad. I should have obviously read the summary that I found on Google, because she is clearly in even the summary. And on the like picture of the movie thing, the movie poster or whatever. But anyway, didn't realize she was going to be so heavy in this. But it also felt like they were trying to make like her relationship not creepy. And I mean, okay, I don't think she'll ever listen to this since no one does anyway, but I'm trying to be gentle and not rude about it because I'm not there. I don't know their relationship, and obviously they were married for many years, and he, passed away, oh my god, like maybe 8 years ago now or something. And that must be really sad and whatever, but I will say they tried to make it not creepy. This relationship she had with her manager, who was 26 years older than her, and like kissed her and started a relationship with her. And when she tells the story of how that happens, you think, oh, well, yeah, that is a really cute story. And yeah, okay, I get it. He liked her, he made a move, and she reciprocated. And that's a cute little story. But then you remember their ages and that he was a manager for her, and like the power that he then would kind of hold over her in a way, being so much younger, and it's a little bit creepy. And then it gets even creepier when you realize that he met her when she was 12, and that's when they started working together, when she was 12 years old, and then pursued her when she turned 19. Just super creepy. Sorry. Didn't mean for this to become like a whole tangent, but it's really freaking weird. I mean, like, I get why they use Celine Dion, because she's famous for her love songs, and she has a lot of good love songs. But the fact that they were trying to, like, make this spotlight on her relationship, like this, idyllic love story. And again, I mean no disrespect to Miss Celine Dion, but it's super creepy, and maybe don't use her creepy relationship to make Rob look normal while he's being super creepy too. Like, stop trying to normalize creepiness. Like, we all say, oh, this scene was so cute, and we do it when it's in, like, an actual, like, movie or something like that. But so many of these things, if they happen in real life, we'd be like, well, that's a serial killer. That is 100% a creepy stalker. And I feel like I'm getting a little tired of all of these little creepy stalker moments, and I really wish that we just had real stuff to learn from, So my final thing is, we never got to see her poster. Like, she's supposed to be this artist. She wrote, like, these children's books, and she was, like, the illustrator for them, and they're supposed to be really good. And one of the things is that, Celine Dion hires her to make her, like, poster thing for her tour, I think. And we never get to see it. like there's so much build up to what this is going to look like, and we just never saw it. Super annoying to get all this talk about something and then we never actually see it. That's bad writing. Sorry, but it is. Anyway, if you don't mind the love interest being a total stalker, then sure, check out the movie. Or you can just Google the scenes where Nick Jonas is in the movie, because those were pretty funny. And if you don't know, Nick Jonas and Priyanka are married in real life, and I think they have a kid now, which is why the scenes were so funny. But, I mean, if you really love the cheesy, hallmarky rom-coms, then this is probably up your alley. I mean, I still watched it because why not? But yeah, as long as you can tolerate the main dude being a total creep. Anyway, the last one I want to talk about is Anyone But You, which is also more of a traditional rom-com. Despite having an amazing first date, Bea and Ben's initial attraction quickly turns sour. When they unexpectedly find themselves at a destination wedding in Australia, the pair pretend to be the perfect couple to keep up appearances. Okay, let's immediately talk about the cast. Michelle Hurd is in this. She plays one of the parents. Quick little more information. I don't know if it really matters. Bea's sister is getting married to this woman, or they started dating in the movie. Her sister's partner's brother, if you're keeping up, is the best friend, Ben. So that is how they first come back together after their little one night whatever. It's because they're both somehow related to this couple that is then going to be getting married in Australia. And the Bea's sister's partner, her mother, is the one who is played by Michelle Hurd. And if you don't know, she played Monique Jeffries in Law & Order SVU, which I loved when I was younger, and then I've now started to watch again since Stabler is back, because I stopped when I left, like any sane person would. But Michelle Hurd is still absolutely gorgeous, and was incredibly fantastic in this movie, and I love her, and I was very happy to see that she was in it. Darren Benet? I also don't know his name or how to pronounce it, which is probably something I should. It's fine. It's too late. But he had a small role in the film as well. He plays Bea's ex-boyfriend, and it was really hard not to root for him, just because I loved him so much in Never Have I Ever. Also, a side note, but he's like only a couple years younger than me, and that blew my mind. He looks so much younger. It's wild. Anyway, the rest of the cast was also pretty good. No one was terrible in this film, including the main stars. It was all fairly decent acting, but let's just fire off some of the things that I liked all together, and then we'll go into my issues. So first, I liked that the beginning of the story was in Boston instead of the usual like New York setting, just a little change of pace, so that's cool. I also loved, I guess I'm not numbering things anymore, which is fine, but I also loved that their first date was just them talking for hours and then some like little snuggling at the end. That's cute. I also loved when they're on the plane to Australia and she sees his cookie and goes through like a ton of work just to get the cookie, but then when she gets like stuck, she doesn't even put it down, she keeps it in her mouth. And she's not even going to try to get rid of the cookie to help get her out of the situation. Like, she's fully committed to it, and yeah, I get it. The cookie comes first, and I'm here for that. What else? I also like that they bookended their meet cute with her asking him if he was going to ask her out. And then at the end, spoiler, I guess, she says, "So are you going to kiss me now?" So that was kind of cute. I liked that little parallel of writing. I also loved that they did the blooper reel / like lip sync dance thing at the end during the credits. Or I guess it's kind of before the credits, but I love blooper reels so freaking much. And that's maybe like the one thing I don't like about the streaming content world that we live in, is that we don't get them as much. And like no one really buys DVDs anymore, and people make fun of me because I have some DVDs, not like, a ton, but I have some. And I mean, yes, they do have some on YouTube sometimes. You can find blooper reels, but like that's extra steps that I don't want. And then how do I know that they're out there unless I Google it? And like, I don't want to. But yeah, I think those are the things that I really liked about this movie. And that's about it. So let's dive into the biggest issue that I had with this film, and that's that I cannot believe I'm saying this, but they cannot get clothes to fit Sydney Sweeney's body. I don't know if it's like a style choice, but both her bra and her bikini top had like the band up at her shoulders, which is wild. And it just looks like they didn't fit, and the straps were so tight, like to help give her like more lift. But instead of just letting her boobs be where her boobs are, and then it forced like the band to like right up her back. And maybe that's a style thing that is not my choice. But it looked really weird and uncomfortable, and I hated it. I was also super cringy with the scene with her hiking. Like, I don't know about you, but when I'm dating someone, I typically don't put my hand down the back of their pants on a casual hike. I mean, one, they're probably gross and disgusting and sweaty, so like I'm not putting my hand there. But also, like, you're around a bunch of people, so like maybe chill. I don't see how that is supposed to convince people that you're dating. And it's just a weird thing, and it was really cringy and really awkward, and I didn't want to watch the screen when it was happening. Like, I get over the pants. That was fine. But then they made the choice to go in, and I was like, why is this happening? I don't understand. And it was really cringy. But anyway, there were also some time jumps in this movie, which I'm not complaining about. The first one was really good. They had their little, I guess you can call it one night stand, not really one night stand, their little date. And then you basically jump 6 months into the future, and you're in this bar, and they panned across this neon sign that said 6 months later, and it was like really well done, and I really liked that. I liked that it wasn't, something crazy, or like they didn't try to make them say, oh, it's been 6 months or something. Like, it was good style choice. I liked it. But then the second time jump, I didn't see anything. And I was really confused when it was like Bee's sister was already getting married, when in the scene before, when they're at the bar, they were like, oh, we're dating? Oh, we're girlfriends. Oh, okay. I didn't realize we were at that point yet. Like, they were new. And I didn't really understand what the time frame was. And it wasn't until the end of the movie where he said it's been like 2 years or something like that. I can't remember what he says, but he says something that made me realize that it's been like a year since the 6 months, I think. So maybe like a year and 6 months later, which I just rewatched that part. And yes, there is literally nothing showing that there's a time jump. And this one's way bigger than the 6 months. So I'm confused why they used it at one point but not the other. Because, yeah, I literally had no idea how much time was passing until he said it at the end of the movie. And at first I was like, well, maybe, I don't know. Like, maybe it really hasn't been that long, and they're trying to be like, oh, now they're all of a sudden getting married. But it was just really weird because I couldn't tell the time frame, and apparently it had been a really long time. But they didn't tell us that. So that was weird. I was also really annoyed that after their night together, and he's talking to his friend Pete about the night before, and he mentions that he said something about his mom, and Pete is like, you told her about your mom? You never talk about your mom. But like, even when it happened, it was weird. Or not weird. It was, so he brings her up because she's like, oh, where'd that wrench come from? And he's like, oh, it was my mother's. She always said, I don't know, some quote about you can pretty much fix anything or something like that. And that's what the wrench was supposed to symbolize. But then he says it, and then he's like, oh, I don't know why I'm talking about my mom. And it's like, well, because she asked you a question, and you just answered her question. So it wasn't super weird. So then when he's like, yeah, I told her about my mom, it was like, well, you didn't really tell her about your mom. You mentioned that she gave you a thing and why she gave it to you. So that's not like a lot of information. And then later in Australia, he's with Bee's parents, and her dad is like trying to dive but can't really dive well. And so he tries to like teach him and says, oh, my mom taught me. So then Bee's mother is like, oh, well, maybe she can come teach him. And then Ben says, well, she can't because she's dead. And like, that was pretty much it. So like, he does obviously bring her up. But also, what was annoying about that is like they made it such a big deal, like, oh, you never talk to anybody about it. But obviously, they're trying to show, like, oh, but you felt comfortable about talking to B about your mother. So that must mean something, even though, like, you had just met and you felt comfortable talking with the parents, even though, you didn't really know them. And maybe being with B has opened you up a bit more. But, like, we never get really closure on that thought process. Because that's all that was ever said. They never truly, and by they I mean B and Ben, they never truly have a discussion about his mother, past just kind of that little bit of information, because B does overhear that and she does bring it up like, oh, is that true what you said? And he's like, yeah. But, like, it doesn't go past that. We don't know what happened to his mom. We don't really know why he doesn't talk about her, besides, maybe it's just painful anyway because she passed away. But we don't know how old he was. We don't know the situation. And so it's a little weird to put so much emphasis on something that we still have, like, questions about that don't really come up later, even though it seemed like it was such a big deal. So another thing that really bothered me was, I get the search and rescue the first time. She falls off the ship or the boat, and he jumps in to save her. That's fine. And, I even found it funny at the end when they get dropped off by the search and rescue people, and the dude's like, stay out of the water, and like peeled out, drove off. That was pretty funny. But then, and this is probably a big spoiler too, but he jumps off the cliff into the water at the wedding to get rescued by a helicopter. And then asks them to bring him to the opera house to find B because she had run off. And that's freaking insane. Like, one, he could have easily died. That was a really high up cliff, and there's like rocks below, and water gets crazy there. But whatever. But also, like, two, was I numbering things? I guess I'm not great at this time. Anyway, the second thing, part of it, is that it's such a huge waste of resources. Like, not to mention you're like endangering everybody's life to save you from something that didn't need to happen. And you're taking away people that could be helping other people, or, or figuring things out or doing whatever they're supposed to be doing to rescue you for needless reasons. And I get what they're trying to do with this, because earlier in the movie we hear a cute little story about Bee's parents and how her father jumped off a train and injured his shoulder, running to go tell Bee's mother that he loved her at the Eiffel Tower. And so, yes, that was a very cute story, and they're trying to give him his own. He even says it, like, I couldn't find a train to jump off of, so he jumps off that helicopter instead. I get it. But it made me so angry at him to, like, waste these resources and to, like, make these search and rescue people drop him off just so that he could, like, have his own manufactured moment. And it really annoyed me. Like, I wish he could have, I don't know, jumped off a moped instead, or like done anything else that felt less like he, again, manufactured this moment and made it a little bit more true, and not just because he jumped into the ocean. Just super annoying. And then they're trying to make him feel like, oh, he's so brave because he was afraid of flying. And so this means so much that he would do this for her. But at the same time, like, I don't want a dude wasting all that fuel and, a helicopter ride that costs a bunch of money for the taxpayers, or however Australia works. Like, not cool. And then another thing was they never actually mention what he does, like specifically. Just lots of really random stories about work and him having to fly for his work. And he mentions Goldman, I think, at one point. So obviously he does something in finance, but that's kind of all we get, even though he's like insanely rich and has this really like gorgeous apartment or whatever he lives in. And I know it's not like a big deal. It doesn't super matter, but we get a lot of backstory of Bee and how she's a student and she's going to school for med school. And so like the fact that was a big kind of point in the story about her being undecided of what she actually wants to do while still being in med school, like, why don't we know anything about him and what he does? I don't know. But then again, I guess we probably didn't really know what anybody else did for a living either. everybody was just really rich, I guess. I don't know. I don't know their life. What else? Oh, I think so. The last thing I'll say is that I really wish the reason that we got for B ending her relationship with Jonathan, the ex, wasn't because we didn't fight. I know she continues and then goes on to say that, they were just too comfortable with each other and they'd been together for so long. But I really, really, really hate the we don't fight excuse in romance. It just annoys me a lot because I get that it's an easy thing to say, like, oh, we just don't fight, and that's supposed to mean something. But to me, I feel like it's just a dumb excuse. Like, you can talk about that there's no spark left, there's no passion in your lives, or that you're maybe stuck in a rut and nothing is really helping you get out of the rut. Like, all of these things can contribute to, I guess, you saying, oh, we don't fight, we're just so comfortable with each other. But, like, in a way that actually means something instead of, falling back on a, a placeholder, I feel, text of just, oh, we don't fight, and that's why we had to break up, because I guess that's exciting to fight. And I assume they're not meaning like, we have insane fights. But I feel like TV shows and movies, they're always, and books too, are always trying to showcase, not always, but there's a certain genre, I suppose, or a certain type of book or movie or whatever, where they're always trying to showcase that, that true love is this intense burning flame, and that if you're not fighting, then, you're not in love. And I feel like that's just so overdone that in order to be with someone, you have to constantly be bickering and fighting, and like you're confusing that for love. And I mean, I'm not saying that you can't also love a person that you fight with, but I feel like there's so many different aspects of love, and I just hate that trope. Okay, I just hate the we don't fight trope, and I'm sick of seeing it, and I don't want to see it anymore, and I'm done. So yeah, so none of those things sound like a problem to you. Go for it. Go watch this movie. I mean, it's fine in the end, and if you're in the mood for a rom-com, that you can just kind of watch on the couch while snacking away and not really paying attention a lot, then this is probably a fine choice. Go for it. And there you have it. Those are my thoughts on Damsel, Love Again, and Anyone But You, all currently available on Netflix. Thank you so much for joining me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr at Mixed Media Reviews Podcast. Please leave me a comment to let me know if you agreed, disagreed, or if you have any suggestions. You can also find me anywhere you find your podcasts, probably. Though using Spotify would be very helpful for me because I've changed everything on Anchor. Anyway, please join me next week where I'm going to be reviewing a book, or rather a trilogy. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and that's the only place I've really been able to find it. It's not on Libby, but it's really good. Oh God, spoiler. Jeez, Kelsey. Anyway, this totally neutral story that I'm going to tell you about, it's called Virtues and Villains, I think, is the trilogy name. The first book is Thrown in the Dark, followed by Summoned to the Wilds, and then the last book is Eclipse of the Crown, all by A.K. Caggiano? A.K. Caggiano, we'll say. I don't know. I don't know anybody's name this episode. It's fine. Okay, have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye!